All right. See that allows us to do is to be able to get everything set up so that so everything goes live. I don't have to have the pressure of you looking at me and staring at me while I'm trying to engage with all of the equipment.
Well, that little clip had the little countdown on it, 4, 3, 2, 1,
And then
and then you didn't come on for another hour. I mean, it was like that SpongeBob little cutscene. 3 hours later, I'm sitting there looking at a cloud.
I should throw that in at the end. All right, welcome everybody to the All About Nothing podcast, kind of daily show. I am Barry Gruber, joined by Mr. Bill Kemmler, who is the host of Black, White, and Blue in the South. You can find him across all of social media as Political Bill SC. Welcome, Bill. Did you have a good weekend?
I did, and let me put in a plug for the podcast. We are dropping our next episode tomorrow morning, 5
I'm
a.m.
excited.
This is a good one. In fact, we have a mega episode that we actually have to cut to two parts. It ran so long. It was over 2 hours
Nice.
of recording. And we had guest Michael Layer, who is running for South Carolina Democratic Party third vice chair.
Okay.
And he was a lot of fun to speak to. But I think we introduced a new segment called Your South Carolina Representatives at Work. And I've taken a lot of clips from committee hearings over the past couple of weeks since they've been in session and kind of provided some highlights and lowlights of what I've seen.
A lot of
So
low
you'll
lights.
want to tune in. It turned out really well, and it's going to become a regular part of our show.
I want to ask though about one of the things that's been in the news, especially in the past like 2 or 3 days, as far as like South Carolina politics and whatnot. Uh, what was it, about a year ago or so? They found a $1.8 billion surplus, or an account that just happened to have $1.8 billion sitting in it. Turns out it doesn't exist. Can you help me out? Explain to me what it is that happened, because I know it has something to do with one software changing over to another software and nobody paying attention, I guess.
Well, it boils down to one word: incompetence
Yeah.
with a capital I. So there was a big software transition, one accounting software to another accounting software. And you know what? Overall, it went really well. There was these $3 million forensic auditors called Alex Partners that were brought in under taxpayer dime to investigate and understand this mess. And Alex Partners even said in their 130-page report, the conversion went well. I mean, they've seen conversions like this all over the world.
Sure.
Ours went well. However, there was one fund that they did not follow proper procedure on, and it started accumulating a balance that grew to 1.8 billion. And at the end of the day, after the auditors were done looking at it, it turns out that 1.6 of it wasn't even real. 1.6 billion was phantom money. It was an accounting ledger error that just was allowed to grow and fester. It wasn't real money, didn't do anything. The remaining 200 million had already been appropriated and spent, and they were able to track that. So really, it was just a bookkeeping pencil error, which to me kind of boils down the whole world of finances. I am not a financial guy, because to me, they just make up rules, and whatever is written on the page is what it is. Like depreciation, I just find that stuff to be completely artificially done.
Sure.
Anyhow, these were just purely accounting errors. Now, there were three groups of people involved in this error. You had the Comptroller General, which
Yep.
was an elected position. I guess it still is technically an elected position that's supposed to be managing this stuff. That guy, Richard Ekstrom, resigned last year after not after this issue, but as a previous issue,
Right.
where he overstated some books by accident, double counted something. So he resigned, saying, "Listen, I'm bad at my job. I'm out of here." There's another party. There is the state auditor. The state auditor is responsible for watching over the Treasury office and the Comptroller office and balancing things. And they let this mistake fester over years, this 1.8 billion. So guess what he did last week? He resigned.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm no good at my job. I'm out of here." So that leaves one person left who's been involved in this debacle, and that's our South Carolina State Treasurer, Curtis MAGA Loftus, who's more worried about the woke agenda than he is about woke ledgers and doing it properly. So he's still defiant. He's still standing strong. But the problem here is last year, in testimony to the House and Senate, when they were grilling him about this accounting issue, and they're trying to determine whether that $1.8 billion was real, Curtis Loftus just proudly puffed up his chest, looked all those senators and representatives in the eye, and says, I've been investing that money and I've earned this state $180 million in interest thanks to my investments, because of that money. He says it's real money. One senator, Senator Fanning, asked, is it real money? And Treasurer Loftus says, you come to my office and I'll write you a check for it right now. So you fast forward to today and you find out it never was real money. It was just an accounting issue. This guy lied.
Yeah.
In a committee hearings, in testimony, and how he's still sitting in that job, collecting a salary off of our taxpayer dime, blows my mind.
Yeah, but and you know what I can tell you is that he is a huge fan of the guy that beat our friend Matt Villardo. Huge fan of David Martin in York County, because everything that David Martin posts, Curtis Loftus goes out and either make sure that he likes it or he comments it on social media. It's almost obsessive at this point. But
it's what you get when you have elected officials who are not qualified to do the job, yet are funded and backed and supportive of extreme political ideology.
Right.
He lives in the same room as Superintendent Ellen Weaver, who knows nothing about education policy, wasn't qualified because she didn't have the appropriate education at the time, and yet still was able to skate through. But she had the ideology, and now she's walking around banning books and this and that, and that's basically all she can do while the teacher shortage remains high, while the classroom sizes have just exploded, while all the schools are underfunded and understaffed. She's overseeing the destruction of the very system she's supposed to be responsible for, but she's not good at it. Neither is Curtis Loftus.
So just to speculate a little bit, what do we think is going to happen if, let's say, the Donald Trump administration does happen to abolish the Department of Education? The states are now responsible for deciphering how funding needs to be done or where they're going to get money from. This is something that would fall on the superintendent of education for a state, and she's obviously defunct when it comes to any sort of ability.
Let me share with you the one genius thing I think Biden will be remembered for. Now, I know he takes a lot of grief, over a lot of things, and I don't think he ever will get the credit that he deserves for pulling this nation out of the mess that he inherited. And yet it took 3.5 years to do so, because that's just how big of a mess we were in. But one thing he did that was genius with the Inflation Reduction Act and other investment type of bills that he passed. Do you know where most of that investment money went to from the federal government?
No, where?
Red states.
Oh, well, of course, yeah.
Red states benefited from the commitment of infrastructure funds more than blue states did. And now that Trump's in office, with the stroke of pens, guess what he's busy undoing?
All of those initiatives.
So here are all the red states that had factories come in, that had been ramping up hiring, getting ready to repair the bridges and repair the roads, etc. Their guy is now in the process of slashing all that federal government spending. Yeah. Just think about FEMA, right? He's talking about eliminating the Department of FEMA and saying, let the states pay for their own damn damage. Well, South Carolina, we had a chance to address Hurricane Helene when it came roaring through and wiped out the western half of South Carolina. You know what the General Assembly of South Carolina chose to do?
What's that?
They chose to go on Christmas break, and they punted. And he says, we'll deal with it next session. We're busy right now.
Of
So
course.
they went and appropriated nothing and said FEMA's got it. We'll let the federal government handle it. And FEMA, maybe they weren't on the spot 3 seconds after the hurricane left town, but they did come and they were providing aid. And now, end of January, they're starting to roll out. They've been here for 3 full months, maybe 4 full months, dealing with the wreckage. This is a department that Trump wants to eliminate. Well, good luck, Myrtle Beach, when the next hurricane comes rolling through, because it's now going to be upon our super Republican majority who is not interested in managing those type of things. Rather would kick it off to a federal government that now is also no longer interested in managing those things.
I wonder what
We're going to suffer.
I
We
wonder
are
what the
going to suffer.
median mean age, or the mean age of the legislature in South Carolina is. Just out of curiosity, it's got to be pushing like upper 60s, I assume. Do you think?
Possibly, because you got to have an established business. You have to be somewhat in a financially good spot. You have to
Right.
be retired, right? But I'll tell you, I don't see age as being an issue because there are quite a few younger faces that are in that General Assembly, and they're just as extreme as their 90-year-old counterparts.
Yeah.
We've talked about a few of them.
I will defend FEMA because in my life experience, my father was a FEMA agent, and then he was a FEMA supervisor
Didn't know
from
that.
93 to 2016, 2017.
Was this
So
before or after his baseball career?
this was this was well after.
Okay.
This was well after. But so he worked for FEMA. He was an on the ground FEMA agent. At one point, he was a communication tech specialist or something like that. He had an RV that had a communication satellite on it that all the agents would come to and get all their orders and then go out. Um, this idea that FEMA dropped the ball on North Carolina or dropped the ball on even California is one of those things that I take offensively because there was there were FEMA agents on the ground ready to deploy while the hurricane was still going on, while the storm was actually still pouring water over the mountains into the creeks and then creating the floods that wiped away Chimney Rock and such. It's really disappointing to hear people not recognize the benefits of an agency that literally comes in. They aren't necessarily the ones that are saving people, but they're the ones that are coordinating how everything moves, how different state agencies, local county officials, and things like that. FEMA comes in and manages the situation, and that's what they do. I know one of the biggest complaints was people were like, "We only got $750, and then we were sent our way." No, the $750 that was provided was an initial, "Hey, here's some money to
Emergency.
get yourself, yeah, here's a money, get yourself a hotel room. This is who you need to get in touch with. This is the agent specific to, let's say, your street." And then that's how they do that. My father, he did uh, Puerto Rico and Florida. I think in back in 2004, 2005, there were something like 6 hurricanes that crossed the state of Florida. So, and I saw firsthand what FEMA does when we had got hit by when we had a hurricane roll through. I think it was Hurricane George rolled through the Low Country back in like 2006 or something. But so it's like this is literally an agency that benefits the entire country. And I see people in the comments right now talking about how FEMA was just devastating for them. If FEMA hadn't been in the way, then they would have had their situation resolved like that. I was like, you can't
Yeah,
build a
you're going to want to
house.
rephrase that last sentence there. How FEMA was devastating for them.
Yeah,
You
no,
meant
that's what I'm saying.
FEMA
That's what
was supportive of. I mean, no, what are the comments saying?
the comments are saying things about North Carolina victims of FEMA. Like they'll
Victims
say
of
that,
FEMA. Oh my
yeah,
God.
like FEMA was the reason they're not back in their homes and things like that,
Okay,
which is just,
great. Then you know what? Then let Trump remove
yeah,
FEMA
that's what's going to happen.
and let North Carolina handle North Carolina disasters and see if they're going to be in a better position. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
I think it's going to need, and I said this once online because Nancy Mace is running for governor, right? So I'm sorry to shift to a completely different topic, but it's
no,
somewhat
it's
similar.
entertaining.
And I said, you know what? I am here for this. I think it may take an event like Nancy Mace's governor, again, reaching a level of incompetence never seen before, burning everything to the ground through that incompetence, it may take a burn it all to the ground action to then see the value of having a competently run government.
Yeah.
Now, we don't like McMaster. I'm not a big fan of his. I'm not a big fan of the General Assembly, but you know what? I do sense that there are some good intentions there. There's a level of competence and experience there, none of which Nancy Mace would bring to the table. So I say, bring it on, let her burn it to the ground, and then maybe we'll have some eyes opened. Same thing with the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
Let him burn these agencies to the ground. You started off with, what happens when he eliminates the Department of Education. Great. There goes a lot of funding sources for the public school systems in the poorer states like South Carolina, who's already behind the times. Let that spigot turn off. You're going to find that you won't be able to afford the private schools. That South Carolina is not going to be able to fund school vouchers and school choice. South Carolina can't afford to send the 765,000 kids to private schools. Good luck with that. Meanwhile, the private schools are going to be making money hand over fist because they are for-profit institutions. Let it burn to the ground, and maybe we'll get some realization that we need leaders who are interested in policy, who believe that government can benefit people. You're going to be constantly fighting against that. Okay, then don't take advantage of it and see how far you get.
Yeah. One of the things I think that I have become more and more interested in lately is that the state of California has moved to the signature phase of possible secession.
No.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are in the taking of petition signatures for so the
Did you
state
see that
legislature.
movie Civil War
Oh yeah.
that came out last year?
Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't that an incredible film? And
It
so
was
it wasn't it.
really good.
And I
It w
think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't California and Texas both succeed and
Yep,
form their own armies?
they did.
Mm.
That is one of the things, and someone I think I mentioned it in a comment during a live one time, and somebody said, "Well, good, we don't need California in this country." And I said, "Do you realize that is $500 billion of income that they don't even ever take back?" So most of the funding that's going to happen for the state of California for repairing, buildings and public buildings, not even just like people's homes, people's businesses, things like that. The actual like public buildings, whether it's firehouses and police buildings and things like that, things that were burned down during these fires, those will likely wind up being mostly paid for by the state of California and not the federal government coming in to help people. But for California to secede from the union would be a drop of more than 500 billion dollars a year in income tax, all the taxes that the federal government receives. And people are just like, we don't need that money. Are you kidding? I can almost guarantee you that by the end of Trump's presidency, in 3 years and 3 years and 358 days or whatever, I'm not counting, that the likelihood is we will have gone from $35 trillion in debt, that economists, some of the experts on economy, especially I mean universities around the country, are recognizing that there is a likelihood we will be somewhere in the 55 to 60 trillion dollars in debt.
We don't need to have forecasts. We've already seen it
Oh yeah.
happen. No president has exploded the national debt more than the first term of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The single president who exploded it the most with his 2017 corporate tax cuts, that completely eliminated a huge source of income for the federal government that
Yep.
went to pay for bridges and roads and things in other states. Eliminated, not replaced with anything, and the debt exploded under his watch, and they don't seem to care. He rides back into town saying, "I'll fix the debt." Yeah, okay. We've seen this play before.
It's such a weird reaction. Like if like and I try to build false equivalencies between Trump and Biden, where I'll say, okay, if Biden did this, if Biden were to come in and fire 17 or 18 inspectors general, that literally the safe the guard dogs, the watchdogs of the federal government that were put in place after Watergate, if Biden were to come in and do that, what would the reaction be on the right? And it would absolutely be, this guy's a criminal. He's trying to hide something. He's trying to keep something out of the view of the people that are supposed to keep an eye on these sorts of things. And their reaction to it is to when Trump did it is just absurd. It's just like, well, we didn't need them anyway.
Yeah, they carry goalposts around all the time and constantly shift and move these goalposts.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest theme now that gas has gone up, eggs have gone up, everything, the price of everything has gone up since inauguration, which is absolutely stunning. The same people that were slapping Biden did that stickers everywhere in the world are now giving Trump excuses. One saying, well, no president can change things that quickly. Well, bullshit. You thought they could last time. Second, that wasn't his top priority anyway. That's not what the American people wanted. Like literally, the same people who said the economy was number one issue are now saying, well, we didn't elect Trump for the economy. The number one issue to them is get brown people out of the United States.
And
And that's the world we live in right now, and they're ecstatic. They are saying again, I've seen this phrase again, and it's deja vu. Trump has done more than in a week than Kamala and Biden had done in 4
oh
years.
yeah. Oh
I've seen
yeah.
that. It's like you take a monkey and you throw him in a room and he slings feces all over the place, and you're calling that production. Like what are you talking about? The guy's done nothing. I'll give one example. There was in the news a whole spat about sending a flight of deported individuals to the country of Colombia, right?
Spelled
Yeah.
COLUMB.
Well, we're now back to embarrassing misspellings on the White House page. But you know what? That didn't seem to matter in the voters' minds. So there was a big spat about a military plane having been turned around,
Yeah.
right? And it turned out it's because Colombia didn't want a military plane coming in. That wasn't the agreement they had with the United States. Same with Mexico. They're like, first of all, fact, you know how many flights of deportations to Colombia occurred last year in 2024 under Biden?
How many?
420.
That's
420 flights of
of
deportation.
deportations.
Yes. So this was happening all the time
Right.
anyway.
And
The
and
difference was Biden didn't slap it on the front page of the White House website and then ran around with the flag in the air shooting off fireworks every time he sent a flight of deportees. He kind of just did that business quietly.
yeah, he
So
didn't.
so we've been doing it all along.
Biden also used commercial flights or private
Yes,
flights, not US military
exactly.
C-130s to fly 16 individuals. Also, there was already an arrangement between our government and those flights, like they knew, like the country of Colombia knew these individuals were being flown down. There was nothing that was provided by the administration to say, hey, we've got a plane of deportees coming your direction. And hey, just a heads up, they saw it on radar. Like, that was apparently, that was when they found out that there was a military plane flying into Colombia airspace because it was over Mexico, and that was when they found out. And it's like,
So the Trump supporters are going ecstatic. One flight made it to Colombia versus 420 last year.
all right,
But because they don't know that what occurred and does occur every day in government, and Trump is out there cutting commercials still over his one flight to Colombia, then they say, oh, he's done more. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
yeah,
He is doing less, he is doing minuscule work. And at the same time, he just promotes it. And that was Biden and Harris's biggest failing, I suppose, was not having the theatrical part of their government. Those goofballs just showed up and did their jobs, right? They showed
yep,
up and did work. Trump is first and foremost theatrics.
yep.
And then 10th on the priority list is actually doing the work.
Well,
But because he's got that promotion part, he dominates.
the last thing I'll say before we wrap this up is that the Border Patrol numbers, according to the Border Patrol agency for the United States, released that in the first week of Trump's presidency, that there was an increase in the number of individuals crossing the border before being detained. It is up to 8,000, where
Ah.
during Biden's last 6 months, it was hovering around 1,200. So
Is that not
congratulations.
considered an invasion? Are we being invaded? Are they not using that term anymore?
No, no, no. Only Fox News gets to tell you when something's an invasion. That's it.
Gotcha.
They're the only ones. Yeah. So this is one of those things where we continue just to move the goalpost. Donald Trump can't kick. So, you know, he's or another analogy. Uh the Donald Trump supporters are the refs against democracy, which are the Bills.
Kansas City, yeah, again, yeah.
Kansas City is
Trump
Donald
Trump
Trump.
is the Kansas City Chiefs,
Yeah.
right? And all the MAGA supporters are the refs. Yeah, I see that. So
Yeah.
every time that he falls down, they're ready to dive on him and call foul,
That's right.
right?
That's right. All right. All right. Bill Kimmler, who is the host of Black, White, Blue in the South podcast. That episode, episode number 50 drops tomorrow morning. So go subscribe to that if you
And
haven't
one final
already.
comment. You are too nice to those who are commenting on these things online. I'm telling you,
I,
uh, I don't. I know you are holding back, and you. I don't know why, and I don't think that it's called for. I think you just need to be brutally honest. So, what are you
here's
trying to make money off these people?
no,
No.
here's the thing. I look at every single person that comments, and usually negative, because there's a bunch of maggots in the comments on TikTok right now. But I look at all of those individuals as, unfortunately for them, they are they're closed-minded to everything. And I don't know what it is that's put them in that situation or created that for them, but there is such a it's not that I'm trying to help them or trying to get them to go in any direction, but maybe just open their eyes a little bit and use some critical thinking to just say, hey, maybe I do have a little bit more. um I guess I lean more towards that, just because this guy says what I want to hear or whatever, and not look at the obvious or facts or anything like that. But some of the comments on there, I honestly, it doesn't bother me. I laugh. Like, they think that there are people that think that I'm being triggered by stuff. And honestly, if I was triggered by it, I would probably reach out to them. Like, I'd probably go
Triggered
onto
so
their
much that you're
profile.
in there commenting on a stranger's video. Boy, look how triggered you are.
I don't do that. I don't I can't bring myself to comment, because I don't fucking care what these people say. Because
Good.
as long as they're not running for office.
You've renewed my faith in you, Mr. Gruber. Well done.
All right, sir. Again, Bill Kimmler, host of Black, White, and Blue in the South podcast. I am Barrett Gruber, the All About Nothing podcast. Congratulations to your Eagles. I do look forward. They will be the team I root for during the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
I look forward to them beating the Kansas City Chiefs and ending that dynasty. That is my hope. Not because I don't like Taylor Swift. I do. I like Taylor Swift a lot. I like Travis Kelsey. I hate I hate seeing Patrick Mahomes falling to the ground and throwing a ball into the air and somehow being caught. But then you see the ball is laying on the ground and the refs still say it was a catch. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't make
Well, you
sense.
also get to have the pride knowing that should the Eagles win the Super Bowl, the Atlanta Falcons beat the Super Bowl victor. So
As
you get
as
to have
well
that comfort.
as well, I think, are there four Falcons on the Eagles? The four former Falcons? I'll have to look that up. I think I
Not
think
that I'm aware of.
I thought I saw something. I mean, all these players play for all the teams anyway, so it
Yeah.
doesn't make a difference. But congratulations to your Eagles.
Thanks.
I'm excited. This is a Super Bowl I'm excited to see, because any opportunity to take down Kansas City Chiefs is okay with me. And it's special for you. Andy Reid was fired from the Eagles. What, 6 years
Well,
ago?
he's beloved in Philadelphia. Don't
Is
don't
he?
let anybody get that wrong. Oh yeah, I mean he put the Eagles through one of their greatest tenures in history. He brought pride to a team that was absolutely nowhere. They were lost. And Andy Reid came in 4 times to the NFC Championship, one Super Bowl appearance. So he's a legacy. He's
Okay.
definitely beloved in Philadelphia. He had a bad final season, and it was more of a mutual parting of the ways. And we're really happy that he's had the success and won Super Bowls in Kansas City. Nobody begrudges him for that.
Okay.
So no, he's beloved. We love Andy.
Well, I was glad to see Dan lose with Washington
Oh, Dan
this weekend.
Quinn.
Dan Quinn. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't he a Falcons coach at
He
one
took
time?
us he took us to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and then
Man,
nothing. It j-
dang.
He is a defensive genius, but yeah. So, all right,
All
Bill.
right,
Thank you very much. You all stay safe, be kind, and have yeah, keep your hands to yourself.
you got to find a new end tag.
I know I'm messing up.
Even you don't buy into it.
I don't. Everybody's gonna touch themselves. Oh God, I just